Good morning, Senator. Thank you so much. And the distinguished members of the committee, good morning. It's a cool morning. It's 7 degrees, so this will heat you up a little bit. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I come before you, Madam Chair, as the prime sponsor of Senate Bill 223. This is a program that I've worked on for a number of years. I worked on this program, and we had a bill passed a couple of years ago. And Chief Mara, who's now working in the governor's office, came to me and wanted to clarify a point with regard to the housing. I brought this bill forward as a result of that. This clarifies the number of square feet that's available, or that should be available for a person. Following the implementation of House Bill 377, now RSA 153:10-D, it was discovered that the requirement to have a minimum of 200 gross square feet per resident is too restrictive. According to Kim Brock, the executive director of the New Hampshire Coalition of Recovery Residences, approximately 25% of the existing NHCORR certified recovery houses are not able to meet that standard. During the initial development of this language, the 200 gross square feet per person was identified as an occupant load factor to be consistent with a typical residential load factor found in the state building and fire codes for residential occupancies. This typically is residential occupancies outside the definition of a single-family home. The National Association of Recovery Residences, the NARR, standard requires 50 square feet per person in each sleeping room. This measurement is consistent with the dormitory occupancy load found in the state building code. It's the opinion of the State Fire Marshal, Shane Toomey, that rather than coming up with an arbitrary occupant load for New Hampshire recovery residents, it is appropriate to modify the language to align with the NARR standard and the state building code for dormitory-style resident space. This does that. This piece of legislation does that conformity and meets the requirements of the State Fire Marshal. So it's a little tweak. We're taking it from 200 gross square feet to 50 gross square feet, which indeed it's livable, it's acceptable, and it's the national standard. So that's my pitch, and Chief Mara is here to add anything else if you need it. We worked hard on this statute because recovery housing became a significant problem in Manchester, as Senator Kavanaugh knows. This all started in Franklin, where recovery housing blossomed, and we needed some kind of restrictions, and we needed something, and we developed Senate Bill 377 and now this modification. So thank you so much for letting me appear before you, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your testimony, Senator. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The chair will call Sean Toomey.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. It's nice to be back and actually being able to see face to face for the meetings. Senator Deed did a great job outlining the points of this bill. I just wanted to speak and affirm that we supported the State Fire Marshal's office. It's been a lot of work over the last few years to try to find the balance of the fire and building code compliance issues with sober living recovery residences. We identified the 200 gross square feet as being a challenge, and through some research, we identified that 50 square feet would be much more appropriate. So why we come before you to try to get that cleaned up and make it a little bit more achievable for balanced code stuff. So happy to answer any questions, but we do. I support it, and the office supports the 50 square feet as presented today.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. Senator D'Alessandro had mentioned Chief Mara And you haven't signed up to speak, would you like to come forward? Okay. Just please make sure to identify yourself for the record.
So, so it's important to encourage houses to get certified. So that's why this amendment is very important, because if recovery houses can't make the requirements of NH Core, in the NAR federal standards, we're going to have a situation where we have people that aren't in compliance with the NAR standards, and we really don't have any control, and we really don't have any way to ensure that people going to these houses are safe. And I think Kim Bach, I don't know if she signed up, but she can give a lot more information on that. And I want to thank Senator D'Alessandro for filing this bill, as well as you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much for your testimony this morning, Chief. I believe Senator Kavanaugh has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Senator D'Alessandro. I just think it's important. I think you answered my question about the certification. I know when you're the Chief of Manchester, you saw everything going on with the B houses. I think it's important to get it on the record that we want to clean that up and have certified homes where you would go in yourself or Chief Goonan, and there'd be maybe 15 or 20 people living in a house. You're stepping over them. It's just in those ones that aren't certified, we've got to get rid of. We've got to get these ones that are trying to help people and do it correctly in getting people sober. So thank you for that. And just wanted to kind of reiterate that, because I did have some people reach out worried about going backwards. And I know we're all on the same page. We don't want to do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions from the committee? Okay. Seeing none, thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
The chair will call Kim Bach. Good morning, Ms. Bach.
Good morning, Senator, and thank you all for letting me speak to you this morning. I also support this amendment to this law. As people have said before, the 25% of the houses that are currently certified would not be able to meet this standard of 200 square feet per person in a household. Many times, a recovery house is an old New England family home, and they're not huge common living areas, and that's what it takes for 200 square feet per person. 50 square feet per person is the national standard, is set by the National Alliance of Recovery Residences. It's recognized as the appropriate standard by SAMHSA. It's recognized by Congress. It's now in a bill before Congress for part of the CARA Act as excellence in recovery housing. So there's quite a bit of support nationally for 50 square feet per person. And all of our houses are required to have, it's part of our standard, they're required to have 50 square feet per person in the bedroom. if there's anything else I could answer for you, any curiosities about certification, be happy to do that.
Thank you very much for your testimony this morning. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other member of the public who would like to speak to Senate Bill 223? Ms. Minahan? Please note, you have to come forward now and make sure you turn the microphone on.
Good morning, Senator Carson and members of the committee. I just actually wanted to sign in support. I don't need to speak, but I would like to be on record supporting this bill.
Okay, just let me write down. Okay, not speaking, but in favor. Okay,
That's all.
you good?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Last call, are there any other members of the public that would like to speak to Senate Bill 223? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Senator Kavanaugh moves executive session. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Reagan. We have Senate Bill 223 in front of us. Is there a motion on the bill? Senator Kavanaugh moves to pass, seconded by Senator Reagan. Is there any discussion on the motion? It seems like we're all in agreement. So, okay.
Starting out good.
Yeah, no, starting out good. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, is there a motion for the consent calendar? Senator Reagan moves consent, seconded by Senator Kavanaugh. Is there any discussion on the consent motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. Is there a motion to come out of executive session? Moved by Senator Kavanaugh, seconded by Senator Prentice. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Did you get out, Shen? We are going to open the public hearing on Senate Bill 226 FN and call the prime sponsor, Senator D'Alessandro. Good morning again, Senator. Make sure you turn on the microphone.
Right. Okay, this is my home away from home. So,
We like having you here, Senator.
again, for the record, I'm Senator Lou D'Alessandro. I represent District 20 in Manchester, Wards 3, 4, 10, 11, in the town of Goffstown. And I come before you as the prime sponsor of Senate Bill 226. This bill was requested by the Department of Administrative Services. And all of you know how difficult it is to find employees today. We're running in most state agencies at least a 25% vacancy rate. So it's extremely difficult to find people. So this bill authorizes the Department of Administrative Services, the Director of the Division of Personnel, to develop a program that would authorize state agencies to pay hiring bonuses to newly hired applicants and referral fees to employees who recruit qualified candidates to state employment. As I said, the vacancy rate is enormous in state government, and we all feel that because we call over to departments and we're looking for specific answers to questions. Sometimes it's most difficult to get them because the job's not filled. It's a highly problematic situation. Every day we read and hear about current labor market conditions where all employees, including the state, are finding it difficult to recruit and retain employees. Many employees are using recruitment and retention incentives, such as referral fees and hiring bonuses, as tools to recruit talent and to enlist their current employees to refer qualified candidates for available jobs. I might say that we do have a recruitment and retention statute, but it's used by the executive department. When I was on the council, we did it. And that statute only comes into use when a subordinate makes more money than a person above him. That's when the recruitment and retention statute can be invoked. This is in addition to that. This is to help us recruit, but it's a new statute because the old recruitment and retention statute doesn't apply. The passage of this bill would authorize the Director of Personnel to develop a recruitment and retention incentive program so that state agencies have the same tools available to them to assist with recruitment and retention as are used in the private sector. Once the program is developed through administrative rules, that will require the approval of the Joint Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules. That means they come before Senator Reagan for approval. An agency would decide whether to offer such incentives and for which positions. Agencies will only be able to pay these incentives if they have the money in their budgets or if another source of funding, such as federal funds, is available for such purposes. Staff from DS are here to provide further information for you and to answer any questions that you might have. I think it's a key that the money would have to come from within the agency budget, so it's an existing budget. It's not an appropriation. And if other sources of funding are available, such as federal funds, they would be available for these purposes. It's amazing to me that at this time in our existence, that state government, which used to be flooded with applications, I think Senator Carson, you remember, flooded with applications. We have huge vacancy rates today, and those are going to exist for a long period of time. So something like this, I think, is absolutely necessary for state government to continue to function and to get quality people. We need quality people. We need these jobs filled, and indeed, we have to use what they're using in the private sector, a recruitment and retention methodology, which indeed would help bring employees to state government. So I thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate your support of this piece of legislation. And there are people from admin services here who can further enunciate on the problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Senator. Are there any questions from the committee? Senator Ricciardi?
Thank you, Senator, for your testimony. If this bill were to pass with the incentives and the hiring bonuses, is there any restrictions? Say the person is hired, they get the bonus, you go through the training, and then they quit. Is there anything that addresses that?
I think that's a great question, and I think admin services can answer that. I'm sure that they have taken into consideration that person has to remain the person who got the bonus, and the person who received it has to stay for a period of time. But again, they'll work on that through rules and get that squared away, because if we didn't have something like that, it would be a waste, both a waste of time and a waste of money. Those people have to stay. And I think employment security has that bonus situation. You know, it's $1,000 for one person, but you have to stay for a period of time, and there's $500. We accepted that in the fiscal committee. So there are restrictions, and I think admin services can comment on that. But thank you. Good question. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the committee? Senator Prentice, did you have your hand up?
I was just going to talk about that this would be resolved during rule writing. The Senator Ricciardi's question, I think, is a perfect place in rule writing, but Senator D'Alessandro is 10 steps ahead of me as usual. Okay.
Senator, I have a quick question. I noticed that the bill is effective 60 days after passage. Do you think it would be more appropriate that it should be upon passage rather than 60 days? So they can get starting on it right away?
And I think that's a great suggestion. Upon passage makes a great deal of sense, because they have to come up with rules. They've got to go to rules. They've got to get them approved. So it would expedite the process, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Great suggestion.
Thank you, Senator. Any further questions? Okay. Seeing none, thank you very much, Senator. Next, we're going to have Ms. Keene and Ms. Rudis. Since you're both from the department, would you like to come up together? You can pull a chair up. Thank you very much. Sure. It's just before you each testify, identify yourself, so that way we can, our secretary can pick up your names with your testimony. Thank you.
Lori Rudis. I am the director for the Division of Personnel.
So I'd like to just start by saying I think Senator D'Alessandro did an amazing job introducing the bill and explaining sort of the problems that we're facing with recruitment of employees to the state of New Hampshire and our attempts to look at creative solutions around recruitment and retention. So I'd like to turn it over to Lori so she can give you some insight from her perspective and her expertise about this bill.
Thank you very much. Just a few points. I'm going to answer the question that the senator had brought forward to Senator D'Alessandro, which is, it usually is you might have installment payments to keep the longevity of the person that we're trying to hire. So, you could possibly do something and say there's a small portion at 90 days, and another portion at 6 months is another portion. So it's really a longevity incentive that we're trying to do to make sure that we're retaining the person. And, they're also in their probationary period, making sure that they're a good fit for the state as well. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We need tools in our toolbox to be able to make sure that we can recruit people. We know that we can't always compete with the private sector, but where there's some real critical spots, nursing being of some highway maintainers, some areas that we really need to make sure that we have the ability to bring in good people. One of the best recruiters out there is our own people working in the state, and to incentivize them to be able to have a little bit of, in the game, if you will, to talk to people and recruit them and talk to them about our benefits and things like that. So I think this is an excellent opportunity, and again, it's one more tool that we can use inside of our toolbox. It won't always be used, but it will be used fairly as we write the rules.
Thank you very much for your testimony this morning. Are there any questions from the committee? Senator Prentice.
Good morning, and thank you both. First of all, I'm a former state employee. I worked for the Department of Safety for almost 10 years and a little bit for Health and Human Services. And I think state work it's honorable, and I'm always trying to bring people, good people, into the fold for you. So
Thank you.
I just wanted to share that. So I'm a co-sponsor of this. I appreciate Senator D'Alessandro bringing it forward, and I do think that how we talk to each other and about working for the state is really important. So so I just wanted to touch on the fiscal note, and this just might be, it's a broad question because it's indeterminable, but is the thought that you would use funds that were, dollars that are unspent that are related to, personnel onboarding or other related HR costs towards this?
So in the short run, agencies would use available funds in their budgets. And if necessary and required by rules, they would have to go to Governor and Council and Fiscal Committee to request permission to transfer funds into the appropriate class line in order to pay for these stipends. It's actually a stipend class line. I did my homework and talked to Joe Bouchard, our assistant commissioner and the state budget officer before coming over. If this bill passes, what we will also do is every 2 years when the budget process begins, Assistant Commissioner Bouchard and his budget staff, they put together budget instructions for the agencies. So agencies would be instructed that should they be interested in requesting funds for these bonuses, and they would put a request in the appropriate class line, which I think is class 17 stipends. And then it would be up to the legislature to decide whether it gets funded through the budget process. I do want to say, obviously, that these funds would be targeted to our most challenging positions to recruit for. Agencies know what those positions are today. They've been a challenge for a while, and this would finally put a tool in their toolkit to help with that.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you both very much for being here this morning.
Thank you, Senator Carson.
Next, we're going to go to Mark Bodwin. Good morning, Mr. Bodwin.
Good morning, Madam Chairperson and members of the committee. My name is Mark Bowman. I'm a retired sergeant with the New Hampshire State Police, and I'm currently the executive director of the New Hampshire Troopers Association. Although I don't think that this program is probably going to benefit the state troopers in the state, I did want to say that we support it because I think it's a good first step in dealing with the recruitment and retention issue that the state is facing. I can tell you right now that the state police is struggling right now to find good candidates as well as to retain the knowledge and experience that we have already. Although I don't have the exact number, I want to say we're down around 50 troopers, and that's a significant number for an agency that's our size. And so I just wanted to keep it brief, but I just wanted to say that we support it, and we are happy that the state is starting to look at some of these ideas of recruitment and retention.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Bodwin. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Are there any other member of the public who would like to speak to Senate Bill 226 FN? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Move executive session.
Okay, Senator Kavanaugh moves executive session, seconded by Senator Reagan. Okay, let's give Chantel. Okay, let's give Chantel a minute to get caught up. We don't want to. Yeah, it's close. It's close. I know. We like to, but I want to make sure you're all set.
I'm thinking about April.
So, just to reiterate, Senator Kavanaugh moved on to pass, seconded by Senator Reagan. Is there any discussion on the bill? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, is there a motion for the consent calendar? Moved by
Second.
Senator Prentice, seconded by Senator Reagan. Is there any discussion on the consent calendar motion? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, who would like to take this one out? Yeah, but we still have to write the little blurby thing. Okay, Senator Kavanaugh will write the little blurby thing. And Chantal, because I neglected to ask who wanted to write that, I'll do the first one. Yeah, okay. Okay, we're doing good. Okay. Continuing on with our theme of Senator D'Alessandro this morning, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing on Senate Bill 356 and recognize the prime sponsor, Senator D'Alessandro. Okay. Thank you. Oh, here's the other one. Okay.
Okay, so. Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, for the record, I'm Senator Lou D'Alessandro. I should be a member of the committee by now. Get me on board. I represent District 20, which Manchester wards 3, 4, 10, 11 in the town of Goffstown. And I come before you as the prime sponsor of Senate Bill 356. This bill has to do with medical benefit payments by state retirees. We know that medical benefits for state retirees has been a huge issue for a number of years. And I must say that Edmund Services has worked diligently to provide quality medical services and to make sure that all the bills are processed properly and taken care of. And this piece of legislation moves to enhance that situation. So I'm here today to introduce Senate Bill 356 relative to medical benefits payments by state retirees. This is a bill to amend the administrative billing process as outlined in the applicable sections of RSA 21(1):30 and RSA 100-A:54 for state retirees and other eligible members of the State Retirement Health Benefit Plan. Effective on January 1st, 2019, the Department of Administrative Services transitioned all medical retirees from the previously self-funded Medicare supplemental plan to a fully insured group Medicare Advantage plan. By doing so, the state capitalized on federal funding and decreased the premium cost charged to both the state and Medicare eligible retirees. The intention of Senate Bill 356 is to update the premium billing and collections process to ensure compliance with the current Medicaid laws, which will help sustain the savings available to the state through the fully insured plan. This bill is at the request of the Department of Admin Services, and they're here to provide you with additional information and answer your questions. I might say that the retirement plan is something that we've spent a lot of time on. I've served on the Finance Committee of the Senate for a long period of time, and when we talk about the medical benefits, it's always an issue. And the Admin Services has done a remarkable job to sustain the program and to make sure that, A, all of the claims are addressed properly, and they've done just an outstanding job on that. And I can tell you that I worked with them on one particular situation, and they saved the life of a state employee, and I'm forever grateful to Cassie Kane for the work that she did in that regard. She's a remarkable person, has done a great job, and it's for the benefit of the state employees. It's for the benefit of the retirees, and certainly that's something that should be thought about, and we should sing the praises of DES in terms of that situation. So thank you, Madam Chair. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them with regard to this Senate Bill 356.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Senator. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much. The chair will call Cassie Keene, and if you would like, is it Joyce Pittman? Okay, if you can come up together, that would be terrific. Again, just remember to identify yourself, each of you, before you speak.
Great. Thank you very much. My name is Cassie Keene, and I am the Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Administrative Services.
Hello, I'm Joyce Pittman. I'm the Director of Risk and Benefits for the Department of Administrative Services.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'll start by saying that Joyce and I have worked together since we both joined DAS, which was in 2013. We are each other's right hand. And when I became Deputy Commissioner, Joyce became the Director of the Division of Risk and Benefits. It's a really big responsibility. We administer the health benefit plan for state employees, retirees, their families, and in the case of the retirees, their eligible spouses. And as Senator D'Alessandro was alluding to, retiree health and the retiree health budget has been a big challenge to the department and to the legislature in our tenure with DAS. And I'm going to share with you some recent really great news about savings, but it's always important to keep history in mind. And back in 2015, right after the budget passed, we found ourselves in a real predicament where, because of pharmacy trends going through the roof, we ended up with a projected $10.6 million deficit in retiree health. That's obviously very problematic, because what it means is somehow we have to amend the plan in order to bring spending into the funds budgeted. And so it was a very big challenge for the legislature. We worked very closely with the fiscal committee, who had 5 meetings where we provided information and they debated how might they help control costs with the retiree health plan. And then after that, there were a series of bills for successive sessions. So today, what we ended up doing over the course of those couple of years was the legislature adjusted the premium contributions for non-Medicare retirees, who today pay 20% of the premium on a monthly basis. And there is also now a premium contribution for the Medicare retirees, and they pay 10%. But Joyce, to her credit, has done a really amazing job leveraging federal dollars. And so back in 2015, we did this at first through the pharmacy program, and we put in place a Medicare plan called an employer group waiver program. And so we've been experiencing those savings going forward. But in fiscal year 18-19, we began with the Medicare Advantage plan to the, we moved self-funded medical benefits into a Medicare Advantage plan for the medical. So we have our pharmacy in a Medicare plan, the employer group waiver program, and now we have our medical. The savings are amazing. In 18-19, our total budget was $171 million. It dropped to $154 in the following biennium, and then again to $129. And it's really as a result of leveraging those funds and getting out there and procuring and having the Medicare Advantage carriers bid against one another and getting really great rates. So what all this means is that we are very careful stewards of the state funds to really ensure the sustainability of the actual medical and pharmacy benefits that our state retirees receive. And we don't waste money. We look for every opportunity to save money. And so part of what Joyce is going to do is talk to you about our need to be in compliance with Medicare laws and regulations in order to make sure that we continue to receive those federal funds and don't place them in jeopardy. And so that as we administer the plan, we are making good day-to-day choices that don't waste dollars anywhere. So with that, I'd like to ask Joyce to talk about the particulars of the bill.
I think that's a nice summary to really briefly hit that there are 2 points that we're looking to address in that maximization of the federal subsidy. We're looking at that compliance. We're partnering with our third-party administrators. Currently, it's Aetna on the Medicare Advantage side, and it's Express Scripts on the prescription drug side. They must comply with Medicare as much as we must as well in order for our members to receive those benefits and also for us to maximize that subsidy. So the couple tweaks in Senate Bill 356 allows us to comply where Medicare does not allow for retroactive enrollment, eligibility, reinstatement, or termination. The way the laws currently read, there is some retroactive enrollment, reinstatement. It allows you to go reinstate them back to 6 months, and Medicare will not allow us to do that. So by this amendment to what Senate Bill 356 allows us to do is really align our laws with the federal laws, and it also alleviates some of the confusion that our retirees have. When they think they have that ability to retroactively enroll, they do not, and we are not able to do that for them. The other piece, and as Cassie said, is we're looking to minimize any kind of unnecessary expense to the plan to support the overall cost of benefits. And under the current legislation, we are required to provide a 10-day, we call it a grace period, so there's a 30-day billing cycle. Then the law says you must send a letter via certified mail, which is approximately $7 per mailing, to retirees to tell them that they're going to get 10 more days. The original intent was really to extend that to avoid any unnecessary terminations for bill pay, but what we found is the majority of our retirees pay within the 30 days. About 50 to 60 people per month require the 10-day notice, so we're incurring that expense. We've gotten feedback from our retirees to say, why are you sending me this expensive mailing? I have my automatic bill pay set up with my bank to mail it in 6 days. You're giving me an automatic extension. It's really due in 40 days. So what we're seeing is we're incurring an unnecessary expense and an unnecessary extension of their benefits into a period where otherwise most don't need that extension.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak to Senate Bill 356? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and the committee will be in recess until 9:50. Seeing that it's 9:50, the committee will come out of recess and we will open the public hearing on Senate Bill 363 and recognize the prime sponsor, Senator D'Alessandro. Yeah, if someone wants to go out and see if he's still there, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Good morning again, Senator.
Good morning, Madam Chair. You know, as I said, this is my home away from home. When's lunch going to be served?
Senator, it's only for today. We can make you an unofficial member of the committee today.
Thank you. For the record, again, you must be getting sick and tired of hearing this. I'm Senator Lou D'Alessandro. I represent District 20, Manchester Wards 3, 4, 10, 11, excuse me, in the town of Goffstown. And I come before you as the prime sponsor of Senate Bill 363. This piece of legislation deals with retirement, and it's to service, relative to service credit for certain Group 2 retirement eligibility. As I mentioned, I'm State Senator Lou D'Alessandro. I'm here today to introduce Senate Bill 363, a bill that would allow Group 2 employees who are in the middle tier category of the retirement system to purchase years to get them back to the 20-year retirement trigger when they were hired. As you all know, we made changes in the retirement system about 11 years ago, and as a result, we created 3 tiers of employees. The first tier is employees who could retire after 20 years. Another tier was for new hires, which had a 25-year requirement, and then there were a middle tier, which includes employees who were hired with the understanding that there was a 20-year retirement, but it was increased on a sliding scale for somewhere between 20 and 25 years. Senate Bill 363 deals solely with that middle tier group. Remember the 3-tiered group, the new hires, those who weren't vested, and those who were vested. So you got 3 tiers that we deal with in the retirement system. As we all know, retention of our state and local law enforcement personnel has become a serious challenge. Recruitment of new hires is extremely problematic, which is placing adding pressure on retaining the men and women currently in those jobs. Pressure from the private sector, and in some cases, outright burnout, is taking its toll. There's no question about that. We're all witnessing that at our local communities and certainly at the state level. Employees are leaving well before their 25-year retirement trigger. Senate Bill 363 is designed to help retain those employees who were bumped from 20 to 25 years by giving them the opportunity to purchase years over the 20-year period to get them back to 20. This is not a bill for everyone because the employees needed to purchase those additional years with their own money. So it's a purchase with their own money, and I think that's a very relevant point. It's costly, but then there were some who would take advantage of it, thereby keeping them on the job for the full 20-year period they were originally hired for. As you can see from the fiscal note, the cost is nominal, and quite frankly, we believe the numbers could be significantly lower than the fiscal note indicates, because the actuary used a rather high 5% number. We believe around 2% would take advantage of this change, and again, because of the significant dollar amount required of their own money to buy out. We're very fortunate in New Hampshire to have an outstanding group of state and local enforcement officers who keep us safe day after day. And we have an obligation to maintain and retain this group of dedicated public servants. Senate Bill 363 is a very small step to doing just that for a very limited number of qualifieds. I hope that you can join me in supporting this bill. The retirement situation has, as we all know, been problematic since we made these changes. We all know that we have a very, very, very significant problem with regard to retention and actually getting people. I think in today's world, we've got 50 vacancies in state police at the present time. That's 50 vacancies that need to be filled. So obviously, some changes could be made that could enhance that situation and give us a chance to do more and to do better. And this group of middle tier people, they deserve to be looked at. And this bill asks you to do that, or asks us to do that, as a way of giving them a chance to get back to where they were. I thank you very much for your attention to my testimony, and I appreciate your due diligence. I mean, this is 4 times you've heard me today, and on a variety of subjects, I might say. So I just want to indicate to you my flexibility in the legislative process. I can go from one to the other. So thank you very much for your attention, and if I've rambled on, I apologize, but thank you so much, and I hope that we can get this done. Thank you. Any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Thank you very much, Senator. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay. Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
The chair will call Marty Carlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Marty Carlin from the New Hampshire Retirement System. The retirement system doesn't have a position on the bill. We're testifying for informational purposes. I did provide a handout to the committee, and there's some on the table here if folks want to grab them. It's sort of a summary of the bill as Senator D'Alessandro outlined, and also the middle tier transition provisions in question in this bill are listed on the handout, as well as the head count of police and fire members within each tier, and the back of the document highlights the actuarial analysis. And I will echo Senator D'Alessandro's comments that our actuary had to use a lot of assumptions with this measure because it's a new provision in terms of how many people are going to take it up and things like that. So they heavily caveated their analysis. And if, in fact, fewer than 5% of eligible members do take it up, that would reduce any liability issues on this bill. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any questions from the committee? Senator Prentice?
Thank you, Mr. Carlin. And thank you for the handout. I just want to be clear on the fiscal note. So we have it, but it's on the second page of your handout. Political subdivisions, 210,000 for all, for one.
That would be the cumulative cost for all 460 political subdivisions, divided out.
Divided out, and depending on how many people took advantage of that are in the Group 2 system.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Mr. Carlin, I just want to make sure that people understand that we're talking about an individual who might start out as a firefighter, say in Massachusetts, and their family moved to New Hampshire, and they decided that they wanted to join a local fire service. And they have years that they had in Massachusetts, and they just want to be able to include those years into their service at their new place of employment. Am I correct?
Not correct, Senator. This bill is for the members who were in the retirement system prior to July 1st of 2011, when the pension benefit laws were changed significantly, but who had not yet become vested in an HRS, had not completed 10 years of service. So they had fewer than 10 years, but they were members prior to the changes. And there's a staggered set of retirement provisions where, depending on how many years they have to work, anywhere between 1 and 4 years older than 45 and work 1 to 4 more years than 45. And the benefit is calculated on a slightly smaller multiplier every year. So what this bill would do is allow the folks in that cohort to buy back to age 45. So they could, if they were, for instance, they had 6 to 8 years as of 1/1 of 12, which they could, buy up to 2 years and retire at 45 with 20 years of service, rather than working till 47 and 22. So the out-of-state service is a different issue. There had been provisions for that in the past, and those were repealed as well, but that's not covered in this bill.
Okay. Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Carlin. The chair will call Mark Bodwin. Good morning again, Mr. Bodwin.
Good morning, Madam Chairperson and members of the committee. My name is Mark Bodwin. I'm a retired sergeant from the New Hampshire State Police, and I'm currently the executive director of the New Hampshire Troopers Association. We support this bill, and we support this bill because it's a small step to trying to give back some benefits to that middle tier group. As we know, in 2010, 2011, 2012, the legislature struggled with the unfunded liability of the retirement system, and they felt that something needed to be done. And as a result of the legislation that was passed in 2012, 3 tiers were created. You had those that were already vested at the time, which was the group that I was in. You had another group that was hired, but had not yet been vested, and they could have anywhere from 1 day all the way up to almost 10 years, might be just shy of it. Several of my patrol partners were in that situation where they had 9 years and like 8 months, and they were almost vested. So you can imagine the anger that this created in that middle tier group, because they were hurt, they were angered, and they were disappointed because the state had promised them something. Sorry. Do I have to start over? Okay. And with that, I'm going to keep it relatively simple. I think Senator D'Alessandro spoke very eloquently about it, and I think he explained it well. It's just allowing these people to buy back, whether it's 1 year up to 4 years, and be able to retire at 45 if they so choose, or they can continue on. I think it is important to say that a lot of people aren't probably going to take advantage of this, unfortunately, because it is cost prohibitive. Because the employee not only has to pay their portion of the retirement system, but they also have to pay the state's portion. And for a Group 2 member, that's probably on average of about $40,000 per year. So the only people I could see taking advantage of this are people that already have a well-funded 457 plan where they could draw out of that and just put it over into this retirement system. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
The chair will call Joseph Ebert. Good morning, Mr. Ebert, and please make sure you turn the microphone on.
Good morning. My name is Joe Ebert. I'm a captain with the state police, but it's important to note that I'm here on my own time today, not representing the division, but it's certainly important for you to know why it is that I'm interested in this bill. I certainly don't want to rehash what has the arguments that took place when this when the retirement changes took place, but I do want you to understand the perspective of where I was at. I grew up here in New Hampshire, so I was happy. I was working for a private sector, a software company. I was happy to be doing so out of state, but I really wanted a chance to come home, and as part of that, I come from a family that believes in a great deal of service. So the opportunity to become a trooper was phenomenal, and I'm thankful every day for the opportunity that I've been given to serve in that capacity. When I made that decision, I made it based on a number of reasons. I made it because I thought that there was nobility in the job and in the profession, and I also made it based on the notion that though I was giving up a much more lucrative opportunity in the software company I worked for, I had a defined period of time that I was gonna come and I was gonna do this and move on to whatever life held for me next. Part of that was, excuse me, part of that was certainly the appeal of a 20-year retirement, being able to serve that 20-year period of time and then have the retirement after that period. Having said that, when the changes took place, yeah, I was like most individuals in that middle tier that's been referenced. I had 9 years and 5 months on, so I missed that by 7 months. I was angry, frustrated, but I would say over the past 9 to 10 years, there has been some realization that I understand that the changes that were made for the health of the system. And although I might disagree with how they were made, I do understand nobody cares more about the health of the system than somebody who's in it. So having said that, I do think it's important to point out, people often ask me who aren't in my profession, they'll ask me, well, so you have to do another year. Like, well, why is that a big deal? You like your job? I love my job. I do. I often tell people I love my job almost more than anything in the world, with the exception of my family. And so I try and explain to them that, yes, one more year at your everyday employment, probably not that big a deal. One more year for me means that that's one more year of opportunity of things that I've gone through in my career. I've been exposed to bloodborne pathogens and gone through the protocols, as have my family, for what that means. I've unfortunately dealt with more deceased children and for that matter, adults than I can even care to remember. I've certainly buried some of my friends, and I've never looked at that like anyone owed me anything, no sympathy, because that's not what I'm looking for. I decided to take this job, and I took that on knowing that those were all possibilities. So I think it's really important. I don't come to you saying, geez, you should look at me and say, geez, we're so sympathetic that you've had to go through these things. I said I would do those things, and I do them because I believe that they're the right thing to do. And that troubles me that when it came time for the state to have to make a really difficult decision, that burden seemed to be shifted more onto the back of the employee than it was onto the rest of the residents of the state of New Hampshire in the form of some type of tax hike or some other fee hike that would have funded the issues that were existing with the retirement and the unfunded liability. So I I mentioned my family before, and retired Sergeant Bodwin had mentioned this, bless you, that, you know, the impact of being beholden to an extra year, 2, 3, or 4 years is significant. It's psychologically. I don't know if I will take advantage of this should it pass, but I do know that it would mean a great deal to me and to my family to be able to have that option. So I would say to you that I really believe that this bill strikes what is a good balance between the health of the system and the health of the employee. And so it's for all those reasons that I would ask for your support of it, and I'm more than willing to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you again for the time.
Okay, I have called on everyone who has signed up to speak. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? Okay, I see a couple of hands. Sir, you are? Okay, please come forward and have a seat and make sure the microphone is on.
It's on now. Good morning, Chair.
Good morning.
My name is Seyfur Ragasa. I am a Chief Probation Parole Officer and currently the President of Chief Probation Parole Officers Union. When the 2011 decisions made by lawmakers, I was 9 years and 9 months with the state service, and I am one of those middle tier employee who was affected by the decision made. I don't want to repeat what was said previously. I'm here to support the bill, not because this bill is a very glamorous bill that will fix the problem we had. And imagine you are a 9 years employee, 9 years and 9 months. You're now being told your 9 years doesn't count. What we promised you 9 years ago when you were hired, it doesn't count. Although those who have 3 months were hired previously, 3 months, we'll keep what we promised them, but we're not going to keep what we promised you. We're going to change your rate of calculation. We're going to change the rate of how many years you would have to work to retire. And all that was put basically on us, the middle tier employees. 9 years and 9 months, 3 months short. So why to support the bill? The bill is obviously a step in the right direction. I don't think any of my members will have the ability to purchase, not only at the cost of the employee's contribution share, but also the state's share. But as we say, something is better than nothing. The impact that change has, I work for the Division of Field Services right now, but I used to work as a correction officer, and I was a correction sergeant before I became a probation parole officer. A field where people come through the door only on the mouth of words, those who work in the field. It has damaged us so bad. Today, as we speak, we have National Guard protecting our prisons. That middle tier employees have been damaged so bad, and it is irrecoverable damage. So I won't go out and advocate and say, come on and be a correctional officer, because that was the taste that was left in our mouths. I appreciate what's being done here. It is trying to at least give the opportunity, which is even if it is a 1% employee, to purchase that year so they can retire in the time they were promised. But to some point, it is very comical. We will allow you to buy the time, but we won't honor you what we promised you at the time of the hire. So the only reason I and my group will support this bill is that something is better than nothing. That's all, nothing else. With that, I'll take any question if you have.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
There was one more hand that was in the back of the room. Okay, now we're getting multiple hands. I would ask you, there's a sign-up sheet over here. Please sign up, and that you wish to speak. Madam, are you from the Municipal Association? I already have you here, but you did not sign up to speak, so please come forward. I'll just check the box that you want to speak. And make sure you identify yourself for the record.
I apologize for that. I'm new. So good morning, Senator Carson and committee members. My name is Catherine Heck, and I'm the Government Finance Advisor for the New Hampshire Municipal Association. And I'm here to testify in opposition to SB 363. And I would like to begin by saying that we value our dedicated members of our police and fire service, and we have no position on the technical changes that the bill would make. Our opposition is that this bill would create costs to our municipalities because the state no longer funds any contribution to the retirement system for the employers. So based on the actuarial assumptions and the testimony I heard today, I do understand that the impact might be less than what was stated on the fiscal notes, but it does create a $12.5 million unfunded liability based on those assumptions, and does pass on rate changes to the employers, which are municipal subdivisions, and those costs are directly passed on to our taxpayers. So we are just here to testify that we only oppose the funding mechanism, that it's directly passed on to the municipal employer for the Group 2 rates. And that's the end of my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? I have a question. We've had a number of individuals testify that that the individual is the person that's going to be paying not only their portion, but they're going to be paying the employer portion, whether they're state or municipality. So how is that going to raise the cost for the municipalities?
So I'm not going to pretend to understand the technicalities of service credit purchase. However, I will say I'm basing it on the fiscal note that there is a $210,000 cost and a small increase in employer rates that would be adjusted due to this change in this provision, again, based on actuarial assumptions, and that the actuary did project a $12.5 million increase to the unfunded liability, which also gets passed on to the employer. So I can't speak to that, and I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Senator Kavanaugh has a question.
Thank you. More of a statement, I guess. I guess we've got to look at it. We've heard a lot from Senator D'Alessandro. We always look forward to seeing him. And we've heard about retention and keeping employees. I know the state troopers are down about 50, a rough estimate. Manchester Police, I know we're down over 20. And I think we have to start looking as employers to make this a better place to work and work for cities and work for the state. And I think giving this little piece back is a small step, but it's something we really should do, and the state and the cities and municipalities should step up and support that too. Thank you.
Senator Prentice has a question.
Thank you, Senator Carson. And it's more of a statement. I'm going to just reflect on or add to what Senator Kavanaugh just stated. So I've been a municipal local official. I understand the local budgeting process, and I was there years ago when this was all worked out and we saw a shift. But this is, in my mind, I'd like to see a community by community broken down. I think it's very small, and it's the least that we can do. And Senator Kavanaugh just talked about law enforcement. We're also seeing that fire and emergency medical service personnel who serve our communities, especially they serve anyway, but right now during COVID, they are picking up the bulk of the frontline work and are having difficulty staffing ambulances. In Massachusetts right now, members of the National Guard are driving some of the ambulances for just the interfacility decompressing work around this. So part of my perspective in looking at this is the retention piece. Well, bringing people in, but how can we keep them in the system so they can serve our municipalities? So I'd be interested in seeing what this $210,000 actually breaks down to. And again, thank you for coming. I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but I just want to get it. I think it's small in comparison. It's the least we can do. I'd be interested in seeing how it would impact the communities that I serve, but I still think that the position that they're in terms of having people on the front line doing the job would mean more than this. What is a it's small. We used to call it budget test in Lebanon, so, thank you.
May I?
Yes, please,
Respectfully.
answer the question.
So thank you very much for your feedback. I just want to reiterate that we have no position on the technical merits of the change that's being made. We are just using our policy position based on our members that they would not like to see any further increase to the employer rates at the municipal level or additions to the unfunded liability. And I completely respect everything that you're saying and all the testimony before me. However, the state used to contribute 35% to municipalities toward these types of costs. So that's where our position is stemming from. So thank you very much.
Are there any more? Yes, Senator Prentice.
I just want to welcome you to your new role. I'm sure we'll see you a lot. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any further questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much. You are, sir?
My name's Frank Swargo. I'm from parole probation.
Okay, please come forward.
I'll keep it short. Again, good morning. Yeah, my name's Frank Swargo. I'm a parole probation officer for the state. I work out of the Manchester office. I'm also the president of the New Hampshire Probation Parole Officers Association. I don't need to rehash what everyone's already said about the frustration about the change that took place in 2011. But I will add that I did grow up. I have a lot of family and friends in law enforcement throughout my life, and I know that people came from all over the country to come work in law enforcement and be a first responder in New Hampshire, and you don't see that anymore. No one knows what to expect in New Hampshire right now when it comes to retirement and all that. So my union and myself is in support of this bill. I think it's certainly a step in the right direction to correct the wrong that was done in 2011 to the people in the middle tier. And that's my testimony.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee?
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you. And sir, you are?
Michael Gia.
Okay, please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Hi, good morning. My name is Michael Gia. I'm the New Hampshire Police Association president, and I'm just going to echo what Attorney Baldwin, we're in support of this bill. I did have a chance to speak to many officers that were affected by this change. They all expressed frustration, anger at times. However, they all had a common theme, the love for the job. I respectfully ask of you guys to please pass this bill.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you. Are there any other member of the public that would like to speak to Senate Bill 363? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
I could answer it if it's okay.
Yeah, go forward. It just won't be part of the record because the public hearing is closed. That's okay. Yeah, we're off the record now because.
We're off the record. I mean, so just thank you for Mr. Carlin for joining us today. So the $210,000. Do you have a breakdown of what that could? So I know that this is optional. This is an option for members in the system. They don't have to do it, but it is an option for them should they so choose.
Yep.
And if they so choose, there could be a cost to the municipality. You've estimated what you think that might be, the political subdivision. And this $210,000, do we have any idea what that looks like per community?
We don't have a breakdown on that level available, but just, you know, is sort of a back of the envelope. I mean, if the bill passes, the rate increase would be, because rates are the same for all employers at their percentage of pay. So the projection at the assumptions used was that it would increase the employer contribution rate for police by 0.03% of pay.
Yep.
And 0.08% for fire. So just if you know, I didn't carry a decimal wrong, and I don't think I did. I was just playing on my calculator when you brought the question up. You know, a municipality with paying $500,000 in salaries for a handful of police, you know, a small town, that's a $1,500 increase. Obviously, for Manchester and Nashua, you know, based on their payrolls, it's larger, but you just multiply the 0.03 or the 0.08 by the, you know, the salary line to get a general idea of what it is. But, you know, and if you don't have any full-time fire, you're not going to be paying that rate in the town anyway, and, you know, so it's proportional.
Okay. That's what I want to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do this. I've got to, yeah, I know. No, I'm going to open the next one. We're going to open the public hearing on Senate Bill 218 and call the prime sponsor, Senator Perkins Coca. Good morning, Senator. Welcome to the committee.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good. We're good.
Good. Nice sunny Wednesday. All right. Good morning. For the record, I am Senator Rebecca Perkins Coca from Senate District 21, representing the city of Portsmouth and the towns of Madbury, Lee, Durham, Newington, Newmarket, and Newfields. I'm prime sponsor of SB 218, an act declaring October 13th as Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day. SB 218 is a refile of Part 2 of SB 105 from last year, as it was amended by Senate ED&A last year and as a request of Portsmouth resident Laura Inahara. Last year, Part 2 of SB 105 passed this committee unanimously and then was sent to the full Senate on the consent calendar. Unfortunately, the House ED&A committee removed Part 2 of their version from the bill in committee last year. However, Governor Sununu has declared October 31st, 2021 as Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day, so SB 218 is looking to just make that an annual occurrence since it's been 2 years in a row now. Laura founded the More Fight More Strong movement after losing her dear friend Jessica Moore and seeks to build awareness about metastatic breast cancer and its important differences from other forms of cancer. Metastatic breast cancer is a devastatingly deadly disease with over 100 Americans dying every day. While 98% of breast cancer deaths come from metastatic breast cancer, only 5% of breast cancer research dollars are devoted to this form of breast cancer. SB 218 will help bring light to this disparity and increase awareness of the grim reality facing many of our constituents. And I did just want to read a brief statement from Ms. Inahara. She unfortunately is unable to join us because she's uncomfortable with being here in person, but I wanted to share some of her personal motivation for doing this. The purpose of commemorating October 13th as Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day, also referred to as MBC, is for the public to understand MBC is not pink. It is a stage 4 incurable disease with a median life expectancy of only 24 to 36 months. This disease doesn't discriminate. It impacts regardless of age. Last year, 685,000 people died from metastatic breast cancer worldwide, 43,000 in the U.S. alone, and 170 women in the state of New Hampshire. To put this into perspective, 116 lives are lost daily to metastatic breast cancer in the U.S. alone, which is like an airplane falling from the sky every single day. Most people don't understand the term metastatic breast cancer and have never heard of it until it directly impacts them or a family member. The more the public understands the disease, the more awareness it brings, and ultimately with awareness comes advocacy for additional research. I know this to be the case as I learned about metastatic breast cancer through the loss of a loved one, my best friend and family member, Jessica Moore, a resident of Rochester, New Hampshire. She was taken by the disease at only 36 years old. She did not qualify for a mammogram yet as she was diagnosed at 32. Throughout her diagnosis, I learned so much that I want others to understand too. I don't want to wait for people to learn about the truth of breast cancer until it happens to their family. Even with me having 2 grandmothers that were breast cancer survivors, I learned that I was uneducated and uninformed about the harsh reality of breast cancer and how underfunded research for a cure truly is. So thank you for the opportunity to share that testimony with you today, and I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for your testimony this morning. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm happy to give up my seat if there is. I said I'm happy to give up my seat if there is. Otherwise, I have the next bill. A while. Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Senator. Seeing that there are no other folks that have signed up to testify, we're going to close the public hearing. Could you pass this down to Chantel? That's for the former bill. Okay. 10:25. Let's make sure we're not too far ahead. Okay. All right. Are you all set? Okay. We're going to open the public hearing on Senate Bill 219 and recognize the prime sponsor, Senator Perkins Coca.
Thank you, committee. Good morning once again for the record. I'm Senator Rebecca Perkins Coca from District 21. I am the prime sponsor of SB 219, an act declaring the month of September as Kinship Awareness Month. SB 219 is a request of Portsmouth resident Denise Richer. Denise is the founder of Step Up Parents, a local organization designed to provide emotional, practical, and financial assistance to relative caregivers who have assumed childcare responsibilities due to substance abuse disorder problems for the biological parents. We have all heard the heart-wrenching stories of children affected by the consequences of substance use disorder, as well as the uplifting stories of relative caregivers who take on the burdens of that situation and provide the child with care, attention, and love. Kinship Care Awareness Month will help recognize those who are taking on the extraordinary challenges of childcare in such difficult circumstances. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to testify, and I will take any questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. I don't have another sheet. There's no other individuals that have signed up to speak, so I'm going to close the public hearing. You guys were pretty fast on that. I don't know, John, Senator Reagan, you missed a couple of hearings. Senator Ricciardi did. I don't know how you folks feel about some of the bills. We're going to meet tomorrow morning, so we can definitely take those up that we heard today, but I think it would give Senator Ricciardi and Senator Reagan an opportunity to look over, and if they have any questions or anything else. What do you think, John? Are you okay?
We can do that in executive session.
You want to do it now?
We got 7 minutes.
Okay. How do you feel, Senator Ricciardi? Do you want to? You missed the one on the metastatic breast cancer. Are you okay with that?
That one I'm okay with because
Okay. All right. Why don't we take? Is there a motion to move it to an executive session? Moved by Senator Reagan, seconded by Senator Prentice. Okay. Why don't we take up the bill we just heard, Senate Bill 219? Is there a motion on Senate Bill 219?
Move on to pass.
Senator Reagan moves on to pass, seconded by Senator Prentice. You're going to have to say something. You just raise your hand. Okay.
Stole city council behavior here.
No, yeah. Okay. So we have a motion of ought to pass on Senate Bill 219. Is there any discussion from the committee? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, Senator Reagan moves consent calendar. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Prentice. Is there any discussion on the consent calendar motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, is there someone who would like to take this one out? Senator Prentice. Okay. Let's go to the one 218. Senator Reagan moves ought to pass and seconded by Senator Kavanaugh. Is there any discussion on the ought to pass motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Senator Reagan moves consent calendar, seconded by Senator. Okay, I'm going to take Senator Ricciardi. Okay, so is Senator Ricciardi. Is there any discussion on the consent calendar motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Senator Ricciardi, would you like to take this one?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I think what we heard on Senate Bill 363, I don't know if folks would like to get some additional information on this one. There was a question that was raised by the municipalities, so I know you maybe would like to get more detailed information.
If I may, I do, respectfully, when I say budget deficit, I don't mean the $210,000 as a whole isn't meaningful. Every cent counts in a state and a local
Right.
budget. But I'd like to know how that could potentially break down community by community. He did give me the percentage, the formula that I could use, but it's going to depend on how many people are,
Right.
It's not mandatory. This is just an option.
Right.
And should they take it up, if they decide to do it, it's going to be expensive for the employee.
Thank you.
And it might actually be more expensive for them than the employer. So
Right.
I'd be interested in knowing if they have a breakdown community by community. It didn't
Okay.
sound like they did.
Yeah, I didn't get that impression either, so we can definitely hold off on that one, so we can get that information.
I'm happy to go to Mr. Carlin on that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Follow up, and I think
No, he's gone, so, but yeah, we can do that, and we can request them to give us some information, a more detailed information.
I understand, the local government, city council part of me wants to just make sure that, we're doing our diligence all around, and if we agree to this, we know what it means.
Okay, so we'll hold off on that one. We also have Senate Bill 356 relative to medical benefit payments by state retirees.
You want to pass?
Okay, Senator Kavanaugh moves ought to pass, seconded by Senator Kavanaugh. Is there any discussion? Well, Senator Prentice.
It seems quickly that this is about savings and more efficiency
Mhm.
than anything else. They're not asking for more money or providing a different benefit. They're just administering the program differently, and you come here to get that done. Is that how I understand this?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good.
Yeah, you're right, it is about efficiency, and they found, and also they're in conflict with Medicare, federal laws, so we have to make sure that we're in line with what they're doing, because if we're not, we tend to get fined, so, yeah.
What they've been doing since 1819 all the way through, the reduction in cost is incredible too.
Mhm.
Yes, it's.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to clarify.
Okay. So we have an ought to pass motion. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Senator Reagan moves consent calendar, seconded by Senator Kavanaugh. Is there any discussion on the consent calendar motion? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Is there anyone who would like to take this one out?
I'll take it.
Okay. Senator Kavanaugh. Okay, those are all the bills that we have dealt with, except for the one dealing with the Group 2 retirement eligibility. And so, can I get a motion to come out of executive session? Moved by Senator Kavanaugh, seconded by Senator Prentice. Okay, what time is it? Okay, seeing that it is 10:41, I'm going to open the public hearing on Senate Bill 359 and call the prime sponsor, who is, again, Senator Perkins Coca. Now, what I try to do is when we get the hearings, the bill assignments, and I look to see how many bills each one has, so I try to group that senator, all their bills in one day, so they don't have to be here once, instead of having to run around to each public hearing, so. Yes.
All right. Good morning.
Morning.
For the record, I'm still Senator Rebecca Perkins Coca from District 21 and the prime sponsor of SB 359 FN, an act requiring the Commissioner of Department of Administrative Services to conduct an inventory of all state real estate. So SB 359 is intended to be a housing-related piece of legislation. This bill will state clearly that New Hampshire has a housing crisis, and the crisis is negatively impacting our state's livelihood and competitiveness, something we can easily see with the 1% vacancy rate and the skyrocketing cost of home ownership This bill will require each state agency to designate its real property with one of three categories. The Department of Administrative Services already has a list and an inventory of all of this real property owned by state agencies. And so what this bill does is simply add a third category to how real property can be designated. Instead of being designated simply surplus or non-surplus, we now want to add a third category, which is not in active use. The idea is that by adding this categorization to the real property owned by state agencies, it can open the door to a conversation. So if the list is made public, the public can review that list, and where there seems to be opportunity for a parcel that's owned by a state agency that's not in current active use, they could approach the agency to have a conversation. That conversation could be whether the agency is willing to designate the property as surplus, in which case it would be disposed of via standing processes that are already in state statute. So we spoke to Commissioner Arlinghouse about this request. The bill is developed in part with his brainstorming and ideas. And since a list already exists of all real property owned by state agencies, the ask really is just to designate whether that property is being actively used or not actively used. Our hope is that the agencies will cooperate with this, because while their ownership of state property might be for an eventual state goal, designating it not in active use also can help us achieve another important state goal, which is to help solve the housing crisis. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to testify, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony this morning, Senator. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much.
Okay.
Next, I will call Senator Becky Whitley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Senator Becky Whitley. I represent District 15, which includes Concord, Henniker, Hopkinton, Warner. I'm really thankful to Senator Perkins-Coca for bringing this bill forward, and I'll be testifying in support. This issue actually was raised by a group in Concord, and I passed out some testimony from the Concord Coalition to End Homelessness. They are a very busy group and are not able to make it today. So I'm very glad to share their perspective and their testimony as my constituents. So what we know, particularly in Concord, as you are well aware, is that we have a lot of state-owned property in Concord. Many, and if you drive around the city, you'll see that many are just not used. I mean, it is something that it presents great opportunity to our community and other communities around the state, but particularly in Concord. So I am very excited that this small change might help move the ball forward a little bit. We know that affordable housing developers are incredibly important to solving our workforce issues and our housing shortages. It's also very important for the homelessness problem that we are experiencing in so many different cities and communities. And we need to support those affordable developers so they can find property. And so a couple of years ago, the folks from the Concord Coalition did meet with affordable housing developers to kind of think through, problem solve about how they can find these properties, how can they develop them, what can this partnership look like? And of course, there's a lot of different factors that make it difficult, but I think this small piece will allow affordable folks that are wanting to develop these properties another avenue to start up conversations about property. And so that's the key here. I think adding this third piece allows the departments to say, you know, we're not quite ready to sell, but look, if there is a housing developer, you know, maybe they would be more willing to put the property in surplus. So I think it just opens up conversations with developers, and that's going to be good for everyone, for all our communities. So I'm proud to support this and proud to submit this testimony on behalf of the coalition. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Senator. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, I will call Steve Labonte.
Madam Chair, Senators. My name is Steve Labonte. I'm the Administrator of the Bureau of Right-of-Way with the New Hampshire Department of Transportation. The Bureau of Right-of-Way is probably best described as the real estate section of the department. We survey property, we appraise property, we acquire property, we manage it, and then ultimately, when it is determined to be surplus, we dispose of it. I have the utmost respect for what this bill is trying to do, but the Department of Transportation has 724 properties that are outside of our active right-of-way. And we internally categorize these into three different groups. The first group is what we call marketable, and that these are, standalone properties that either they may have a structure on it or they could be developed. And out of that 724, we have 59. Then we have another section that is less marketable, and that's 185. And with this group, when we say less marketable, it's marketable to a very small market. It might be in a butter because it doesn't have access, or it can't be developed because of the area. And then the rest is 480 not marketable because they are these odd remnant sections that are scattered all over the place. And what I think this bill would do is the department probably could not meet the deadlines that are placed in the bill because it's looking at January 1st, 2023. With the amount of properties that we would have to review, it would take us years. And I would suggest that there are less alternative, less burdensome ways to comply with this. Each municipality has an inventory of the properties within their municipality, and they are listed by property owners. I know right now the department is working with the New Hampshire Housing Authority. They approach us about properties that they see and they'd like to develop. We're actually working with them on a few of the Conway properties that we're now disposing. Again, I would say that I have the utmost respect for what the bill is trying to do. I just think in its current form, it's overly burdensome. I'm happy to take questions if anybody has any.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there questions from the committee? Senator Prentice.
Thank you, Senator Carson. Mr. Labonte?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I got that correct. So you talked about 724 properties?
Outside of our active right-of-way.
Outside of your active right-of-way. And was the number correct, the first group, which is probably the most applicable or maybe most attractive to this type of discussion? Did you say 59?
Yeah.
Okay. So you broke this down into three categories. The ones that, if I'm hearing it, so I want to make sure I'm correct, the ones that are, would be most attractive?
Right. They're probably the only ones that would be attractive.
Yeah. And then the others, kind of, if we're triaging this, less attractive as we go, with the largest group, the 480, being the last one. So, just wondering if this first 59 is, I hear what you're saying, but I just wonder if this first 59 would be possible versus looking
Well,
at
we haven't determined that. That's just the category, and I apologize to cut you off.
Is that okay? All right, go ahead.
We haven't determined, but that's one thing I should have mentioned. That's potentially marketable. I use the term potentially because we haven't determined that it's surplus yet.
Okay. But this bill would have you determine that as surplus?
The way I read the bill, yes. Okay. It would require us, but the way I'm reading the bill now, it requires to go through all of the properties.
Okay.
And I would suggest the term inactive use is a very narrow term. It's a very narrow category because daily use, like the department may have properties that may be used 3 months out of the year, like a borrow pit or something like that. So that means, not in active use is an overly broad category.
Okay. So. Yes. Oh, do you want to go?
No, follow up.
So, two things. One is it possible to enter into a discussion with the prime sponsor about some of, not just this language, but how we could get at these, I'm looking at this 59, changing the number and how we could maybe approach that.
I'm always open to that.
Okay, and I think that's one thing. And then the second thing is, I know I say this all the time, but I come from the city of Lebanon. And I was on the real estate subcommittee of the city council when we went and deemed our properties surplus so we could do this kind of thing. But it took us, not every community has done this, has actually gone, it was a really active maneuver and plan on the part of the city to get it done. So I think we have to be clear, some communities may have done this, but not everybody has. So I just wanted to share that. And it did take a while to get it done. Okay, thank you, Senator Carson.
May I follow up? There is,
Yes, please.
And maybe we're not on the, there is a state statute that requires communities to keep an inventory.
We have an inventory.
Yes, oh no, please, go right ahead.
Inventory, but not surplus.
No, an inventory, so, and maybe I misspeak. So when I'm saying that, if somebody wanted to know what property, so somebody like New Hampshire Housing Authority, okay, if they say, okay, the North Conway area has a housing crisis because it's too expensive for any of the workforce, they can go to the North Conway tax records and they can say, state of New Hampshire owns all these properties. Let's approach them. And they've approached us about properties and we're working with them right now on that.
Follow up?
Thank you. So on the local level, that's not always the case. And although you can go to a city or a town and you can see what properties they own and for what reason they own them, but the determination of whether they're surplus or they're going to keep them within the use of the city is another conversation. So that's all. That's what I was, so yes, we're good. We're on the same page. Thank you, Senator Carson,
thank
and
you.
committee members for your time. Thank you.
Are there any further questions for Mr. LeBlanc?
If I may, Madam Chair,
Yes,
maybe I
please.
could just describe how we go about determining something is surplus on a typical. So what we'll do, what will happen is someone interested in a property will come in and inquire about that. We then make a determination. We then send it through a departmental review, and it's reviewed by all of our, well, not all of our bureaus, but like the Bureau of Highway Design, Bureau of Highway Maintenance, Bureau of Environment. They'll review the property to make a determination like, our 10-year plan has us doing improvements to this off-ramp, and we might need that property for drainage, so no, it can't be surplus. Or we had, it's reviewed, but from the first point somebody makes an inquiry till typically we get to closing, that's anywhere from 12 to 18 months. By the time we do our review, we then go through long range, and then we then go through GNC. So that's determined. That's just doing these as they come in. If we have to take a look at all of our properties, that's going to be burdensome. But again, I respect what this is trying to do.
Are there any further questions? I have a quick question for you. Oh, and Senator Reagan, why don't you go first, please?
So if somebody's interested, a developer, in a piece of property, they can find out who owns it, they can go to who owns it and try to make a deal.
Yeah, so somebody's interested in a piece of property, typically I'll get a letter from them, or they'll call and I'll say, okay, why don't you send in your inquiry plans, a location map, and then we'll start a departmental review on that. And then ultimately, we have the property. If it's determined to be surplus, we have the property appraised for fair market value, and then we go through long range, GNC, and then the sale.
Okay. My question to you is, it seems like if we were to do this on a statewide basis, that it might be overwhelming and it's going to take quite a bit longer than what this bill asks for. Do you think it would be appropriate to create a pilot program focusing on one community and perhaps Concord, because Concord does have a lot of state-owned property here and a lot of it is just abandoned. It's just sitting there, and we do the maintenance on it and it's expensive to maintain these buildings, but they're not being utilized. So do you think it would be appropriate to start a program just here in Concord and see how it goes?
a pilot program would be a good idea, whether it's here in Concord or the city of Manchester or Nashua or any of those cities. That is, I believe, a good idea. I would state that we're in the course of selling the Stickney facility that will ultimately be used for residential properties.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The Stickney facility, the old state
okay.
highway garage. That's we're in the process of selling that to Brady Sullivan, who will use it for residential properties.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Labonte. Next, we're going to call Patrick Hackley.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Please come forward and make sure you identify yourself for the record.
Morning, Senator Carson, members of the committee. I'm the new face for the Division of Forest and Lands. So my name is Patrick Hackley, and I'm the director of that division. I'm here to comment and offer input on the bill, but as Mr. Labonte said before me, I think the intent of the bill is very worthy. It's an important social economic issue, affordable housing. So in no way my comments should be interpreted as being in opposition or have any concern. We want to work with DAS and the sponsors if we can. Let me just give you some perspective about our agency and what we do with the land that's under our charge. Division of Forest and Lands, as you know, is with the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. We're the state agency charged with the execution of all matters pertaining to forestry, forest management, and forest lands within the jurisdiction of the state. Our agency manages about 218 state reservations that they're either designated as state forest, parks, natural areas, or historic sites, and that total is approximately about 170,000 acres. So should SB 359 or some version of it become law, we just want to emphasize that all the acreage currently under our management is considered inactive use, quote unquote. We do have a purpose for it. It may not have a building or a parking lot or some other functional infrastructure, but the reason why it's under our agency is for some of the purposes that I'll identify shortly. Under RSA 227H1, it is hereby recognized and declared that state-owned reservations contribute to the conservation of natural resources and a distinctive quality to the state of New Hampshire. The public welfare of this state is served by the prudent acquisition and management of reservations to provide forest benefits and for the purposes of demonstrating sound forestry principles, protecting habitat for plants, animals, and other organisms, conserving forested watersheds, preserving areas of rare and exemplary natural beauty, ecological value, and provide for perpetual public access and use. So those aforementioned forest benefits I just mentioned are further defined in RSA 227G2, which basically says forest benefits include, but are not limited to, forest products, a viable forest-based economy, recreational opportunities, scenic values, healthful surroundings, climate mitigation, clean water, and biologically diverse populations of plants and animals. So that's our charge. That's what we do at the Division of Forest and Lands. But as I said, as this process goes forward, and should this bill become law in some way, we're prepared to work with DAS to identify lands. Certainly, as Mr. Labonte and I think you mentioned, Senator Carson, if they want to do a project around Concord or Manchester, we'd be willing to work with DAS to identify those parcels that are under our agency to see if there's a fit. We do have an internal surplus land identification process. And as some of you may also know, that surplus lands are handled through CORD, at least under our agency. So when a state agency wants to dispose of state-owned real estate, the proposal must undergo a review process beginning with the Council on Resources and Development, or CORD. And there's quite a flow chart, and some of you may have seen this. I unfortunately don't have enough copies today, but I'll hand out at least 3. Maybe someone can make more copies, but if the chair and the vice chair could get a copy of that. So that describes the surplus land review process under CORD, and then there's quite a flow chart that is associated with that. And you'll notice about midway through the process of the flow chart in determining surplus lands, that they ask the question, does the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority want to acquire the property? So under RSA 204D, the New Hampshire Financing Authority, Housing Finance Authority, has that opportunity built into that process. So that's a good thing. At the very end of that flow chart, the municipality or the county has an option to make a run at that property, as well as acquiring it for municipal or county uses. So I just wanted to point your attention to that as well, that there is a process in place for surplus lands that does include the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. With that, I'll conclude my comments and take any questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony this morning. Are there any questions from the committee? Senator Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your testimony. I just wanted to bring it up. I was on a committee this summer to look at the closure of the SNU Center, and what we asked the Commissioner Arlinghouse, I think it was, to come up with some, I can't remember the exact numbers. I think we said something to build that facility between 2 and 10 acres that the state owns, and we did it in the southern tier, meaning we're south of Concord to the seacoast down to the border. And I was amazed at how many properties there were. I mean, there was the ones in, I can think of some that were right off the airport in Manchester. You know, it's just, so there's some opportunity, I think, but it'd be interesting to see. I wouldn't want to take forest and land, but if there's vacant land or buildings, it'd be neat to.
We've identified some parcels, Senator Kavanaugh, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but yeah, like I said, we're willing to work. It doesn't serve the state's interest to hold on to land that we don't have an active use that fits with one of the public benefits I've identified. Obviously, any green space we can conserve in our urban areas we want to, but we also understand there's a social and economic need for housing, affordable housing. We do have a parcel of land in Manchester that unfortunately the homeless have already found. So, and that's pretty affordable for them, but that's a management issue for us. Yeah, it's actually near an overpass. It's not, hopefully we'll figure out a future for that. But these are good questions to ask, and there are parcels that are out there that we might be able to find. So we're willing to work with DAS.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any further questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, Senator Carson.
Are there any other member of the public who would like to speak on Senate Bill 359? Sir, please come forward, identify yourself.
Hi there, my name is Jared Nyland. I'm the Real Property Asset Manager with the Department of Administrative Services. I apologize, I did not get on the testimony sheet there. Got here a little late for that. The Department of Administrative Services is neither in favor nor opposed to this bill. On the other hand, we would like to offer some written testimony with suggestions regarding the language and structure.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Martone is currently passing something around, but she'll be back and she'll get it, and we'll make sure we get it.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, I want to offer, we're happy to help the prime sponsor work on this legislation. If
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony this morning. Are there any other member of the public who would like to speak to Senate Bill 359? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing.
I can't.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Senator Kavanaugh, seconded by Senator Ricciardi. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We are done for the day. Thank you all very much. I'm like, remember the microphones. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yep, and the exact time. You wait for me? Okay. I think we need to do some work on this last one.
Sure.
We see this on
And I know that the house is doing something, because I filed a bill, because I was shocked. All the property that we own here in New Hampshire, that, I mean, in Concord alone, that's just sitting there, nothing is being done with it. It's like, what are we doing with this?
But we still own it, and we're still responsible for it, and there's a cost associated with that. That's the conundrum on both sides of this.
I think that
So even though that, maybe, I think your idea of like, having some type of pilot, I mean, I, might be the way to get, to try this out. I mean, we held on to properties locally for years that we were spending money on. It was crazy.
There's something in, I wrote, because I had to go for the pharmacy affordability board, and they had it at the auditorium at HHS.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know where this is.
On the Brown,
I just drove around to the complex. Across the street, it's called Concord Stable. Where it's the town, the city stable. It had to have been in use because it has electricity. But it's a beautiful building that's just sitting there. And it's like, why, we could rehab this and move an agency into that building.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that? Yeah. Well, we lease these things out.
Okay, so I want I need clarification on that. I don't want things going to municipalities to burden them further.
Which one?
Of the retirement, anything like that, like.
So I asked for, I'm gonna contact Marty Carlin, because we're talking about $210,000, okay? And the person from NHMA she couldn't explain. So I asked Marty Carlin to try to explain, like, that's $210,000 approximately for the entire state.
But sometimes that's a creep-in factor to get bigger, I don't know, I just need to be clear that, the state broke their promise, they were supposed to do this. And so I can't keep having the towns picking up the burden, it goes against my
I
thing.
understand that, and we're in the same place, but at the same time, this is first of all, it's not it's an option, we're not making it mandatory if we did it. Secondly, is that these people who retire, who want to buy back time to put themselves over, they have to pay for that. Oh, I thought mine was up.